My husband asked if I was in love with our neighbor. Then he showed me what he knew. I was 41, married and loyal until a 23-year-old neighbor looked at me like I still mattered. And I didn't walk away. 17 years. That's how long Gregory and I had been married. 17 years of routine, of stability, of quiet companionship that slowly blurred into background noise. He was a good man, predictable, solid, the kind of husband who refilled the gas tank without being asked, who scheduled my oil changes before the dashboard could blink. But love had turned into logistics. He'd still say, "Good morning," pour my coffee just the way I liked it, and sit next to me on the couch at night. But somehow, somewhere, I stopped feeling seen. Not ignored, not mistreated. Just invisible. The kind of invisible that settles into your bones when the person closest to you looks through you like wallpaper. So when Liam came back into the neighborhood, I didn't think anything of it. He was the boy across the street, the Walker's son. I'd watched him grow up on a skateboard and sneakers, running wild with his friends like all suburban boys do. Now he was 23, fresh out of college, back home temporarily while figuring out his next step. And then one afternoon, I was on my knees weeding the flower bed when his shadow stretched over mine. "Need help?" I laughed. "What, you think I can't wrestle a few weeds on my own?" He smiled that infuriatingly effortless grin. "No, ma'am, but I figured I'd offer. You've been out here all week." That was the first real conversation. Just a neighborly chat. But that's how it always starts, isn't it? Over the weeks, our chats turned into rituals. He'd swing by with a second coffee. "Made too much," he'd say. We'd talk about the cul-de-sac, college, and how different everything felt post-graduation. He confided that he felt stuck. I told him I understood that more than he could imagine. And then, one night, everything shifted. Gregory had gone to bed. Couldn't sleep. I sat on the porch with a glass of wine, the night swallowing the houses like a velvet curtain. Liam was across the street, leaning on his parents' mailbox. Our eyes met. He walked over, sat next to me without a word. We didn't talk. We didn't have to. The silence pulsed with a strange, electric tension. I asked him, eventually, "What are you afraid of?" He didn't blink. Waking up in 10 years realizing I lived someone else's life. That hit me in the ribs like a crowbar. Because I already had. That moment became a line I couldn't uncross. From there, our interactions felt different. Charged. Not inappropriate, but not innocent either. He started bringing over small favors. A coffee, a book he thought I'd like, asking me to taste something he cooked. Gregory noticed. Of course, he did. He didn't say anything, but the way he lingered when I came back from outside, the slightly too casual questions about where I'd been, they spoke volumes. I started lying. Harmless lies, I told myself. Just omissions. Just silence. But the silence was deafening. Then came the grocery store moment. I ran into Teresa, Liam's mom. She smiled and said, "Liam says you've been a great friend lately. One of the few people who makes him feel grounded." Friend. The word should have comforted me. Didn't. That night I looked at myself in the mirror and saw someone I didn't recognize. Not because of the wrinkles or the tired eyes, but because of the way my heart felt like it was on fire again. Alive. And that was the most terrifying part. The next day, Liam rang my doorbell. He stood there holding a dish I'd left at their place. But he didn't hand it to me. "I don't know if I should say this," he said, voice shaking. "But you're the only person who sees me right now. And I don't want that to go away." And instead of closing the door, I let him in. I wish I could say I pushed Liam away that day. I slammed the door, reminded him of my vows, and put a stop to the ache curling in my chest. But I didn't. I let him in. Not just into the house, but into me. Into the version of myself I thought had died years ago. The woman who could be flirted with, complimented, wanted. He didn't kiss me. He didn't even touch me. He just sat there while I fumbled with the dish, pretending like nothing was happening. But everything was happening. His leg brushed against mine once. He didn't move. Neither did I. When he left, the silence he left behind was louder than any slam of the door. Gregory was home early that night. He kissed my cheek. Smelled like aftershave and printer toner. Said something about quarterly reports. I barely heard him. All I could hear was Liam's voice. "You're the only one who sees me." Wasn't that what I wanted? To be seen? But by him? By someone else's son? That night I watched Gregory sleep. Chest rising and falling. Completely trusting. I remembered the first night we spent in our house. Painting walls until 2 a.m. Eating takeout on the floor. And laughing about whether to name our future kids Sarah or Nathan. Now we barely spoke unless it was about grocery lists or what time the exterminator was coming. The guilt gnawed at me, but the pull was stronger. For the next few days I avoided Liam. Didn't go outside. Didn't open the curtains. But on the fourth day, there was a knock at the back door. I jumped. Gregory was in the shower. I opened it halfway. Liam stood there, hands jammed in his hoodie, rain soaking his hair. "I'm sorry," he blurted. "If I made things weird. I can't stop thinking about you. And I know it's wrong. I know I shouldn't say it. But it's true." My breath caught. "Liam, I'm married." He nodded. "I know. And I'm not asking for anything. I just needed to say it. I needed you to know I see you, Claire. All of you." He turned to leave. But I didn't shut the door. I just watched him disappear into the rain. That night, Gregory finally said something. "You've been quiet lately." I froze. "Work's been a lot." He stared at me. "Are you okay?" That was the worst part. He meant it. Genuinely. He cared. And it made me want to sob. Because he was trying. Just too late. The next day, Liam texted me. "Can we talk? Somewhere away from here. I need closure. Please." I stared at the message for 10 full minutes. And then I typed, "Meet me at the lake. 4 p.m. My hands were shaking. But I hit send. At 3:45, I sat in my car at the lake, my heart pounding like a war drum. When Liam walked up to the window, I rolled it down. And that's when he said the one thing I never expected. "I lied. I don't want closure. I want you." That was the moment I should have ended it. Liam's voice cracked when he said it. There was no smugness, no arrogance, just longing. And it wrecked me. I turned away and gripped the steering wheel like it might hold back the flood inside me. "You can't say that," I whispered. "I just did," he replied, stepping closer. "Claire, I'm not some kid with a crush. I've never wanted something this bad in my life. I see you. And you see me." It was true. That was the terrifying part. "I'm married," I said again, like repetition could cleanse me. "And unhappy," he added, eyes locked on mine. My heart slammed against my chest. We sat there in the car, parked beside the water, surrounded by silence. The wind rustled the trees. A squirrel darted past the hood. But inside the vehicle, time stood still. Finally, I said, "I can't be the woman who cheats. I swore I'd never become that." He didn't say anything, just nodded, jaw clenched. I drove home with shaking hands, barely remembering the route. I walked into the house and found Gregory at the stove, stirring pasta. "Smells amazing," I said, forcing a smile. He turned and smiled back. "You okay?" I kissed his cheek and said yes. But I wasn't, because while he cooked me dinner, I was mentally reliving Liam's voice, Liam's eyes, Liam's confession. And that night, when Gregory tried to initiate intimacy, I flinched. He noticed. He didn't say a word, just turned off the light and rolled away. The space between us never felt wider. Over the next few days, I didn't see Liam, but I felt him. In every quiet moment, every glance at the window, every breath. Then, on Friday, there was a package on our doorstep. No label, just my name in handwriting I recognized. Inside was a book, Wuthering Heights. Inside the cover, a note. For the woman who knows what it's like to love someone she can't have. My knees almost buckled. I hid the book in the laundry hamper. That night I dreamed about Liam. Not even anything explicit. Just his hands brushing mine. His voice was in my ear. When I woke, I was crying. Gregory confronted me 2 days later. He stood in the doorway holding the book. "You want to tell me why Liam Walker is leaving gifts on our porch?" I froze. He tossed the book onto the table. "Claire, what's going on? Don't lie to me." I opened my mouth, closed it. My throat burned. "I haven't done anything. I haven't cheated. But you've wanted to." The words split the room like lightning. He stepped closer. "How long?" I whispered. "A few weeks." He nodded, walked into the kitchen, poured himself a drink with shaking hands. "We need help," he finally said. "Therapy, distance, something." I wanted to agree, but I didn't, because I wasn't sure if I wanted to fix it. Later that night, my phone buzzed. "If you're thinking about me too, meet me at the trail behind the lake. Midnight. I just want to see you. Nothing more." I stared at the screen. And at 11:47, I grabbed my coat. The trail behind the lake was quiet. Too quiet. The kind of silence that amplifies every breath, every snap of a twig, every racing heartbeat. It was 12:03 a.m. when I finally saw him leaning against the wooden bench like he'd been waiting hours. Liam. He looked at me like I was a sunrise and he'd been stuck in the dark too long. I didn't think you'd come, he said softly. I shouldn't have, I whispered back. He nodded. But you did. And that was the only truth left. I sat next to him, but not too close. My body was tense. My brain screamed at me to leave. But my heart, my stupid aching heart, just wanted to sit in the quiet with someone who saw me. We didn't touch. We didn't speak for a long while. Then he said, "Do you love him?" I didn't answer. Because I didn't know. I loved who we were, I finally said. But I don't know who we are now. Liam reached out and brushed a strand of hair from my cheek. I flinched but didn't move away. I think about you all the time, he said. Every second. Every silence. Every breath. He leaned in. And I didn't stop him. Our lips met like magnets snapping together after weeks of holding back. It wasn't fireworks. It wasn't cinematic. It was something worse. It was a relief. When we pulled apart, I stared at the ground, heart thudding like a war drum. I crossed a line, I whispered. You're not alone, he said. But that didn't make it better. It made it worse. I didn't sleep when I got home. I peeled off my coat like it weighed 1,000 pounds and crawled into bed next to Gregory, who didn't stir. The guilt sat on my chest like an anvil. The next morning, I avoided his eyes. Cooked breakfast. Overcompensated. But Gregory was too smart. He watched me. Like he hadn't in years. And then he asked, "Are you in love with him?" I dropped the spatula. "I need to know," he continued, voice shaking. "Because if you are, tell me now. Don't keep me in this purgatory." I couldn't speak. Because silence is its kind of confession. Later that day, I drove. Nowhere specific. Just away. From the kitchen. From the questions. From the lie, I let bloom into something real. Liam texted me. I didn't mean to cause damage. I've never felt this alive with anyone. And that's when it hit me. This wasn't love. It was escape. From responsibility. From routine. From the me I couldn't stand to be anymore. But in chasing that escape, I'd lit my whole world on fire. When I got home, Gregory was gone. On the table sat his wedding ring and a single sticky note. "I'll let you have the space you clearly need. When you're ready to be honest with me and with yourself, you know where to find me." The moment I saw the ring on the table, I knew. Gregory wasn't threatening me. He wasn't being dramatic. He was done. He'd left quietly, no screaming, no ultimatums. Just space. Honest, painful space. And I hated him for it. Because it forced me to sit alone with the truth. I had broken something. And I wasn't even sure I wanted to fix it. The days blurred. I went to work, smiled at clients, answered emails, and went home to an echo. Max, our golden retriever, refused to sleep on Gregory's side of the bed. He paced the hallway, tail down, eyes anxious. Even he knew something was wrong. The neighbors noticed too. Liam stopped coming around. I think he sensed the collapse. Or maybe someone warned him. Small towns have sharp eyes and sharper tongues. Teresa, Liam's mom, stopped waving. Her smile vanished. She knew. They all knew. I became a ghost with a name tag. The woman who had everything and decided to throw it at the feet of a 23-year-old fantasy. And worse? I missed Gregory. I missed the way he poured my coffee before his own. The way he hummed while folding laundry. The way he called me Han was like it was a sacred word. I miss Real. But Real didn't want me anymore. A week later, I found a letter in my mailbox. Gregory's handwriting. "Claire, I loved you before I knew what love meant. And maybe that was the problem. I gave you a routine when you needed a surprise. I gave you safety when you needed to feel alive. But I never stopped giving. Even when I felt you pulling away. I don't hate you. I hate the silence. The lies. The version of you I never saw coming. I'm staying with my sister for now. Don't contact me unless it's something real. Something honest. I deserve at least that. Gee." I sat on the front steps with that letter in my lap, sunlight warm on my knees, and for the first time in weeks. I cried. Not pretty tears. Ugly, snotty, gasping sobs that cracked me open. Because I realized something. Liam made me feel alive. But Gregory made me feel at home. And I had walked out the door without a map. That night, there was another knock at the door. I opened it, expecting a delivery. It was Liam. He looked wrecked. "I think I made a mistake," he said. "I don't want to lose you." And for the first time, I didn't step aside to let him in. Liam stood on my porch, waiting for a different version of me. The version who used to smile at his texts. The version that let him fill the silences in my life like music I hadn't heard in years. But that version was gone. Or maybe she never should have existed at all. "I can't do this," I told him, arms folded across my chest. He blinked. "What?" "I can't be your lifeline. I can't be your escape. And you can't be mine." His jaw clenched, the corners of his mouth twitching in disbelief. "I thought we had something," he said. "We had something wrong," I whispered. I closed the door before he could answer. And I leaned against it, breathing like I'd run a marathon. Because letting go of Liam wasn't easy. But holding on to him was never going to make me whole again. 2 days passed. Then I picked up the phone. I called Gregory. He didn't answer. I left a voicemail. "Hey, it's me. I'm not calling to fix things. Not yet. I just wanted to say I'm sorry. For everything. For not being honest. For shutting down. For not appreciating what we had. I don't expect anything. I needed you to know I finally understand what I broke. That night, I went through old photos. Our wedding. Our first apartment. The blurry shot of us at the beach laughing over a spilled ice cream cone. I wasn't crying anymore. Just remembering. And it wasn't pain I felt. It was gratitude. Gratitude that once someone had loved me that much. And maybe if life was fair, he'd find someone who deserved him more than I had. The next morning I got a text. Thank you for your voicemail. I heard the honesty. I'm not ready to talk, but maybe one day. Take care of yourself. Short. Final. But not angry. And that meant something. I started therapy. Not couples therapy. Mine. Because there was too much I'd buried for too long. Too many parts of myself I'd ignored until they screamed loud enough to destroy everything. It wasn't about Liam. It wasn't even about Gregory. It was about me. The parts one gave up when I became a wife. The parts one tried to reclaim in the worst way. Weeks passed. The whispers faded. The neighbors moved on. So did Liam. His parents said he left town, job offer out of state. No goodbye. No note. Just gone. It was better that way. Gregory never came home. But he didn't block me. He didn't erase me. And sometimes that's a gift too. I opened my email one morning and saw it. Subject, about us. From Gregory. I hovered. And clicked. Subject, about us. I stared at the email for a full minute before I opened it. Gregory never used to write emails. He was a sticky note on the fridge kind of guy. A one-word text kind of communicator. But this email, it was long. Claire, I've rewritten this a dozen times. Part of me wanted to yell. Part of me wanted to shut the door forever. But mostly, I just wanted to tell you the truth. You hurt me. Not just because of what you did, but because of how long I didn't matter enough for you to say something. I wasn't perfect either. I thought routine meant security. I thought quiet meant contentment. I see now that it meant distance. I've been in therapy too. And I've learned a lot about myself. About you. About what love should look like when it's real. I don't know what the future holds. I'm not promising anything. But if you're still willing to be honest, maybe we can meet. Just coffee. No expectations. Let's see who we are without the weight of pretending. Gregory. I read it again. And again. And then I smiled. Because this wasn't a love story anymore. It was a real story. One with bruises. And regrets. And raw truths. But also, one with hope. We met at a small cafe downtown. The same one we used to go to before we got married, before life layered over us like dust. He was already there when I walked in. Same eyes. Same crooked smile. But something was different too. Lighter. We talked for hours. About nothing. About everything. We laughed once. He even reached for my hand. Not to claim me. Just to remember. We didn't jump back in. We didn't pretend like the damage hadn't happened. But we started something new. Not a redo. A restart. It's been 6 months. We're still figuring things out. Some days are easy. Some aren't. But every single one is honest. And after everything? That's more than I ever thought I'd get. Liam never came back. Last I heard, he moved to Chicago. New job. New city. I hope he finds what he's looking for. We were two broken people trying to fix ourselves with each other. But some repairs have to happen solo. And me? I still go to therapy. I still journal. I still sit on the porch sometimes with a glass of wine and think about who I used to be. But I don't ache anymore. I'm not invisible anymore. Not because someone else sees me, but because I finally started seeing myself. So I ask you this. Can love survive betrayal if both people are willing to dig through the wreckage? Or maybe the better question is, would you take the risk of starting over, knowing everything might break again? Let us know what you would have done. Hope you enjoyed this story as much as I do. Help this small channel grow by hitting that like button, subscribing, and sharing with your friends. Every bit of support means the world. Thanks for watching and see you in the next one.